But dude, you try weaving. It's hard. I mean, have you ever looked at the fabric from your shirt close up? Next time you're in a boring chemistry lecture, check it out. The cloth is made of threads, millions of them going up and down, back and forth. Somebody had to take the material, like wool or cotton or whatever, brush it out so all the fibers go in the same direction, then spin it and twist it into those tiny little threads. Then they had to line up a zillion sideways threads, all parallel to each other like guitar strings, and weave them up and down, and weave the threads into them. Sure, now we've got machines to do that, but imagine back in the day doing it all by hand. Every square inch of cloth took hours and hours to make. Most people could only afford one shirt and one pair of pants because they were so freaking hard to make. Curtains or sheets? Forget about it. And that's if you made it with just one color like white. If you wanted a pattern, then you had to plan out which threads to dye and what color you had to get and get them all exactly in the right place, like a massive puzzle. With my ADHD, I could never do that. Weaving was the only way to get things made out of cloth, so unless you wanted to run around naked all the time, you'd better find yourself a good weaver. Arachne made it look easy. She could make you a Hawaiian shirt with pictures of flowers and frogs and coconuts woven all over the fabric, and she could do it in about 5 minutes. She could make curtains with silver and blue thread, so when the fabric rustled, it looked like actual clouds moving across a blue sky. Her favorite thing was making tapestries, which were big pieces of fabric art that you could hang on the walls of the house. They were only for decoration, and they were so hard for most weavers to make that nobody but kings and pro basketball players could afford them. But Arachne made them for fun and handed them out like party favors. That made her popular and very famous. Pretty soon the local folks were gathering at Arachne's hut every day to watch her work. Even the nymphs left the woods and their streams to gawk at her weaving, because her tapestries were more beautiful than nature. Arachne's hands seemed to fly. She picked up a tuft of wool, spun it into thread, dyed it whatever color she wanted, and looped it onto the frame of her loom in less than a second. When she had a whole row of strands going up and down, she attached a sideways thread to a long piece of wood called a shuttle, which is kind of like a giant sewing needle. She slid the shuttle back and forth so fast as a ball in a tennis game, weaving the threads together into a solid piece of cloth, and because she planned out her colors so perfectly, a picture appeared in the cloth as if by magic. Shuttle, 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 wham! Suddenly, you were looking at an ocean scene woven from the cloth, but so realistic that the waves seemed to break on the beach. The water glinted in the blue and green metallic threads. The woven people on the shore were so carefully crafted you could make out the expressions on their faces. If you held a magnifying glass up to the sand dunes, you could pick out each individual grain of sand. Arachne had basically invented high-definition weaving. One of the nymphs gasped, "Arachne, you are amazing!" "Thanks," Arachne allowed herself a smug smile as she prepared to weave the next masterpiece. "Athena herself must have taught you weaving," the nymph said. Now this was a huge compliment. Arachne should have just nodded, said thank you, and let it go. But Arachne was too proud of her own work. She had no use for the gods. What had they ever done for her? Arachne had built herself up from nothing. Her parents had died and left her penniless. She'd never had a bit of good luck. "Athena," Arachne sorted, "I taught myself how to weave." The crowd shuffled nervously. "But surely," one man said, "you should thank Athena for your talent, since the goddess invented weaving. Without her, no tapestry for you." Arachne hit the man in the face with a ball of yarn. "Weaving is my thing. If Athena is so great, she can come down here and test her skills against mine. We'll see who gets schooled." You can guess what happened. Athena heard about this challenge. When you're a goddess, you can't really let somebody get away with calling you out like that. The next day, Athena descended to the earth, but rather than come in with spears blazing, she decided to visit Arachne in stealth mode and check things out. Athena was careful that way. She liked to get her facts straight, and she believed in giving people a second chance. After all, she'd accidentally killed her own best friend Pallas. She knew that mistakes happened.